Hi, welcome to Leap Taken. This is Mika, and here at Leap Taken, I talk about all things witchy, craft-related, law of attraction, manifesting, esoteric, and everything else in between. And forgive me for this late post. This was supposed to be on Friday, but things happen. This is my witchy review, and this is what we're reviewing today: Incense, Oils, and Brews, the complete book of Incense, Oils, and Brews. This book was written by Scott Cunningham. It's actually, I believe, a second print edition with some updates. So why this book? Well, I posted a video earlier, or in the middle of the week, where I was talking about making an oil, an anointing oil. So this is where I got it from. Actually, most of the recipe and one of the reasons I picked a lot of the oils that I chose was because of this book. This has been around for some time. Again, this is a recent print edition as of, I believe it was 2020. So that's why it's kind of a little bit more, not a little bit, but why it's available now. Most people have probably seen this book. I'm trying to get to the copyright date. Okay, I said second printing, 42nd printing, 2019. So this book has been around for quite some time. But like I said, it's been updated. It was actually the copyright 1989, so it's old. But like I said, it has some updates, including resources in the back. But I'll get to that. So it breaks it down into different parts, 3 different parts of the book. So part 1 is about your basics. So if you're new to the craft, you can, pick up this book, new or not, but if you are new, part 1 is going to give kind of the basics 101 about altars, timing, when to do certain things, tools, and just going over a basic spell. They do talk about proportions, which I think is important a little bit, and using certain empowering rites, which is a ritual to empower your herbs to do whatever it is you want them to do. And good information about creating your own recipes. And I'm all, about the DIY, so I enjoyed that part. So part 2 is about processing and recipes. So it's sort of the main part of the book. That's where you're going to find the recipes for your incense, oils, and brews. And there's some really interesting things. I will just say, get this book. I think it's great to have in your library for practicing witchcraft if you don't already have something. I have a book on herbal magic, which I like, and I'll probably be adding something soon to my library. But this one goes a little bit more into detail about not just, it's okay to understand herbalism as far as from a magical point of view, or mundane as well. This takes it a step further because it's talking about using, creating other things, like I said, oils and making tinctures and stuff like that. But that's what I like about it. The other thing is part 3 talks about substitutions, and I'm glad that they did that, because it offers a practical guide to substituting herbs, elementals, and things like that. Because if you don't have everything that's listed in the recipe, you might be tempted to think, oh, well, I can't make it. But you can still make whatever it is, whatever the recipe is. You simply find something that has the same meaning and that makes sense, something you have on hand or have access to. A lot of times, and they mention that in the book, that you'll find recipes and things like that to make incense or oils or things like that with some exotic herbs that you don't have access to, or might not even be available to anyone for that matter. You may not be able to find it. And if perchance you did find this exotic herb that's only grown in a specific region in the world, it's probably going to have a crazy price tag, really extra. So, it's a deterrent to even trying to purchase it. So substitutions are going to be necessary. So they dedicate part 3 in talking about substitutions and understanding how to do that, which again, I think is great information, because if I'm coming at this, even if I have a little bit of history under my belt, as far as practicing witchcraft, but for some people it's not that simple. They still need a little bit of help and understanding, hey, you can kind of advance your witchcraft a little bit more, making more things, like making your own incense perhaps. And you really want to do it for, let's say, I'm just going to pick a random thing in here. Again, most of the ingredients in here are not very exotic, but solar cleansing brew. This is a brew. as opposed to an incense. So they're asking for 2 parts fern, 2 parts juniper, rosemary, cumin, yarrow, pepper, and rue. Now, you might not have access to all those things. Right now, if I don't have rue, fern, juniper, or yarrow in my cabinet to pull out and use, so I'd have to order them or source them from someplace. So I might want to keep the same theme of a solar cleansing brew. So they have a whole section to explain how do I go about substituting, and it makes logical sense and magical sense as well. How am I still accomplishing the concept of the solar brew? You know, how do I do that? So part 3 goes into talking about substitution so that you can understand that very thing. How do I go about making substitutions? And it's actually a pretty good amount of information. And more importantly, they give a table, tables of magical substitution, which I think is great. Again, this is a great reference book just to have. If I don't have something, so if I don't have clove, you can substitute mace or nutmeg. If I don't have peppermint, you can use spearmint, that type of thing. If I don't have thyme, I can use rosemary. If you don't have tobacco, you can use bay, that sort of stuff. The appendix, oh my God, the appendix, well, there's more than one appendix, but appendix 2 offers sources to purchase the herbs, oils, and live plants and other material, which I think is great because they consider them reputable to put in this book. Not every edition had like a resources section in the appendix, and I remember reading that was kind of a thing, that it was left out, and they're glad that they added it to this recent edition. So that's a good thing. So now you have a place you can go. So you see things here, and you have different resources you can use to actually source some of the stuff, to make the things the recipes they're providing. I appreciate the extensive amount of recipes and for the oils, incense, brews, powders, sachets, ritual soaps, herbal baths, and tinctures. There's the recipes, and this is a relatively thick book, and a lot of it is introductory stuff, like I said, different sections, but the meat of the book, part 2, is all about the recipes. And I really, really appreciate, you're not giving me a lot of, for lack of better words, fluff, material at the beginning and the end. Most of the book is what you wanted. You wanted the recipes, so I appreciate that. There is one oil in here I'm really looking forward to making, so I'm gonna source something I don't have. There's something called an Aries oil. Now, I've purchased an Aries, like the zodiac. I'm an Aries. I purchased some Aries oil before I left Florida, and I have since run out. And I don't know if I don't think they were doing online sales, and even if I did, I couldn't remember the exact name. I just knew the location. So I want to make my Aries oil, and they have a recipe for it. So it's 3 drops frankincense, 1 drop ginger, and these are essential oils, 1 drop black pepper, and then 1 drop petite grain. I've never heard of that, but I'll have to look to see what that is, understand it, because I won't just buy it and follow it just because it's in this book. But once I understand a little bit more, which they will, if they're telling you the oils in here, you can find somewhere in the appendix or the beginning section, what is that? What is the magical purpose of that? So you're not just buying things and putting them together and you don't even know why. So I do appreciate that they do that. Yeah, that's actually very helpful because, I'm not someone who just follows a recipe blindly, whether it's food or or for magical purposes or workings or things like that. I don't just do that because I think that's silly. So I'll be finding out a little bit more, because if I can't get access to that particular essential oil, which I don't know if I will, I've never seen it, and I buy essential oils often, what I'll do is I'll find a substitution for it. Well, if not that, what is this essence? What is it about this that they put it in the recipe? So I would find it, and then I would substitute it. So there you go. And they tell you a little bit of instruction on what to do with the oil. So in this case, for my Aries oil, it says, wear as a personal oil to increase your own power. So there you go. I don't know. I mean, I could do that if I was performing some sort of ritual or whatever I was doing, or I might anoint something else with it. But, we'll see. I'll get there. The point is, it's a great reference to have. I think it's kind of almost like a must-have to have this in your library, your Witchy library. I have herbal books, and they give a little bit of information, but this whole book is dedicated to all these sort of things. So again, I'm getting a little bit more DIY. This time of year, I always get like this. It's like I want to get real, make everything by hand myself. So I recommend the book. I think it's a fabulous book to have, again, to add to your library as a perfect reference. The oil, again, that I made in my Wednesday's video for my anointing oil, I got from this, and I actually did some substitution for one of the things. So if you get this book, you'll know what I substituted, if you already have it. And I look forward to sharing more recipes and things like that. That makes sense, to share, especially with the coming holidays and things like that. So they have a lot of different cool things that I could use that would make sense to use for, various rituals that I'll be doing between now and the end of the year. So yeah, I'm a fan. I really appreciate the information that I got in here. But then most of the things that from Scott Cunningham, I'm on board for, because it's straightforward. It makes sense. Even some of the older stuff, that's what I learned from a lot of the books that he authored. So it makes sense to me. And yes, I understand there's a Wiccan bit, but this one, I think they talked about Wicca. They mentioned in the beginning, but yeah, because they talk about the power of 3 years, harm none, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, there is definitely things about it, but you clearly don't have to be, as with most books that are geared toward witchcraft, you don't have to be Wiccan, to get it, so to speak, to get what the message is saying in the book. So don't worry about that. But yeah, and as far as my Witchy review, yeah, it's a must. Let me turn it this way. It's a must-have. I think you should get the book. All right, so let me know in the comments if you already own this book or if you're thinking about getting it. I definitely appreciate hearing that. And thank you for watching. Again, this is Mika with Leap Taken. Please go ahead and like the video if you've enjoyed the content. Subscribe if you haven't already. And if you have subscribed, again, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Like, seriously, I really appreciate it. Thanks again. Bye-bye.